One of the things you need to think about as a transformative business builder is if you brought in other investors with their capital, they're expecting at some point to get a cash return on that investment. And that may mean merging your company. It may mean taking your company public. It may mean selling your company. Now, it's always going to be exciting to someone who starts with a noble cause and builds a business and has the satisfaction of having a success on their hands to want to see that success continue to grow, which doesn't mean if you sell the company or take it public, you can't stay a part of it, even be the leader of that company. But at the same time, you need to consider that timing in life is everything in building a business, and that a business that seems incredibly valuable at one moment may not be as valuable even a short time later. I'll give you an example. There are a number of companies that have gone into the storage on the cloud business. They raised an incredible amount of capital in order to do that. And yet, we've seen that business model commoditize so quickly that companies that were thought to be worth several billion dollars even a year ago, it's now questionable whether they even have a future as being worth very much at all. Why? Because big companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon had said, well, we can get into the business of offering really inexpensive data storage on the cloud. And by the way, we'll even give that away because we got other things we can make money with the customer on. So even with the success of finding a great customer-centric solution that offers a great customer experience, that has a disruptive business model to it, that you've been able to build out and attract capital to go and build, you may wake up one day and discover that you have been disintermediated by a bigger competitor. So you need to think about, how does the landscape change? Not how does the landscape change over 3 or 4 years, but how does the landscape literally change over 6 months? And it has happened before, and it will happen again in the future. So thinking about how you monetize your business is something you always need to keep in the back of your mind. And the way to do that, I find, is to build your data room from day one, meaning the data room that will have to be used by anybody who is going to acquire your business or want to take you public. They're going to want to go in and do due diligence. So you've got to make sure that your accounting systems are set up to meet that due diligence experience. You've got to make sure that you have the full range of legal documents. If there's intellectual property involved, that you have the correct patent applications and other documents that have been important to show that you have protection with intellectual property, that you have no litigation exposure, that if there has been litigation, that you've got that cleaned up. All of these things are an important part of building a business. And as you think about selling a business, if you only have one customer in mind who will buy that business, very low probability that you'll ever be able to sell it, and certainly not at the price that you'd like to get for it. So I always want to have at least 3, 4, 5 or more potential acquirers in mind who may want to acquire your business for very different reasons, or merger partners. There may be people out there that say, gosh, you're building something, you're not big enough on your own to be worth what you think you are worth, but if we merge your business with my business, we can actually create something that's worth more than either one of us are by ourselves. So some businesses are consolidator businesses, and you want to consolidate around them, and you may be a consolidator, or you may be a consolidatee. You may be a company that ought to be tucked into some other organization. You've got to be constantly scanning the landscape of what those possibilities are, and remembering that timing in life is everything when you're building a transformative business. You have to be alert to the fact that you are building in a market world where everything is commoditizing around you, where domain expertise is maybe the only sustainable differentiation. And even domain expertise can change as new domains come in and disintermediate and disrupt an industry that you're already in. When you were disruptive a year or two earlier, it may have been a different industry than the industry that will be emerging over the next 2 or 3 years. And so you have to be conscious that even though you were the disruptor, you may also be the company that will be disrupted, if you pause and become complacent.